Hello, my name is Matthew, and we are on shelf 10 of my tiny house library tour. This is the other top shelf on this side of the house. And if you see any of these books that interest you, please send me an email. I'll leave my email, and um, we can maybe work something out and I can mail them to you. You'll be helping me with my plans to visit Spain. And I also have a GoFundMe page. I'll leave a link to that as well if you're interested. But we'll just start. Um, it's Oxford World Classics, and it's the major works of John Keats. This is a great edition, and Keats is um, the most beautiful writer of the English Romantics, even if I don't understand what he's talking about all the time. Um, okay. On Obligations by Cicero. Um, this gets into more of Stoic philosophy, and um, there's other writers, philosophers that I prefer to get my Stoicism from. Not so much Cicero. It has an essay where he's talking to his nephew, I think. The other Greek historian, this is Thucydides, the Peloponnesian War, and for as much as I have enjoyed reading Herodotus, um, I've had a little bit more difficulty with Thucydides. Um, it was still enlightening and engaging, um, but I think I need to revisit this again, hopefully sometime soon. Okay. The Upanishads. The Upanishads. I remember hearing about this. I think I have two copies. One is a really um, extensively abridged version, and this is um, um, I don't know if it's complete, but it's annotated and has a lot of additional material. I first heard about this book in The Razor's Edge by Somerset Maugham, and it's this character who's been reading all of these books, and he goes. I think he's at like a mining town in India. I think somebody asks him, "Have you read the Upanishads?" And the person says no, and he says, "You don't know anything." It's a good story. Um, okay, I'll show both of these at the same time. It's Sir Walter Scott again. We have Rob Roy. I think this is a pretty well known novel, at least. Can you see that? At least by name. It's great. And then Waverley, the first. I believe this is Sir Walter Scott's. That light. Can't see it. Um, I believe this is his first novel. He published it anonymously because he didn't want to taint his good name as a poet. I've never read his poetry. um, a Fable by William Faulkner, and I believe this is the first novel that I had read by Faulkner. Um, Set during World War One, and there's this um, really horrifying um, circumstance and decision that needs to be made. If I'm remembering correctly, it's whether or not to send this battalion of troops to certain death um, in order to win a larger war. And so the general or captain is like wrestling with um, um, the responsibility of the lives of his men compared to the responsibility he has to the lives of his countrymen. Okay. Penguin Classics. It's by Tolstoy. It's a confession and other religious writings. Um, there's a lot I like by Tolstoy. Um, this is something that I didn't get very much out of. It's interesting. The Confession was interesting, but I didn't. I wouldn't turn to this as much as I would turn to his early short stories or some of his other novels. Okay, maybe my favorite novel by Nabokov, and this is Invitation to a Beheading. Yeah, it's completely washed out. You can't see it. And this was recommended to me. I am a big fan of Kafka, The Trial, and The Castle, and all those short stories. Somebody said, well, if you like that, you should try Invitation to a Beheading, which has one of the best titles. I really, it's great. The Tragedy of Brady Sims, Ernest J. Gaines. And this was something that was recommended while I had my book channel, and a viewer suggested that I give it a shot. And I enjoyed it. There's a fabulous barbershop scene with all these characters just having a conversation about what was happening. It is a sad novel. Life, Letters, and Poetry by Michelangelo. Michelangelo, in general, is one of my favorite figures. I love just admiring his sculptures and drawings, his paintings. The more I learned about him, the more he became this impressive, larger than life figure. He wrote poetry, these sonnets, and his letters are really interesting. And he had biographies that were being written as he was alive. They're full of admiration. One of my favorite short story collections of all time, The Adventures and Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. A slim little novel by Italo Calvino. This is Marco Valdo, or The Seasons in the City. Pretty much I've enjoyed everything I've read by Calvino. I don't even remember what this one is about. I think it might be that astronomer. I don't know, but you can't. For my money, you can't really go wrong with Calvino. Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. This is a used copy. It's full of these notes and annotations. The ABC of Reading by Ezra Pound. I read this several years ago, and it I just remember it being fascinating and quite different than anything else I had read by Ezra Pound. It's comprehensible. It's these essays on literature and advice for students. I don't know. I haven't looked at it in a long time, but I remember enjoying it. The Western Lands, a novel by William S. Burroughs. I can't believe it. The light is just gone. And this is, I believe this is the last novel in his trilogy that he wrote in the 80s, and they're these pulp novels, and I think William S. Burroughs more comfortably sits in that kind of pulpy genre compared to literary fiction. I probably will never read this again, but I remember being entertained. Dubliners by James Joyce. Probably my favorite. Gosh, you can't see it at all. Oh my god. How did I go? No. Probably my favorite collection or thing that I have read by James Joyce, each thing that each piece of work that he um, wrote and published, I liked less and less. I'll show all four of these at the same time. Virginia Woolf, we have Orlando, To the Lighthouse, A Room of One's Own, and The Waves. And see, yeah, it's completely white. I can't see anything. God. Just one of the greatest English language writers of the 20th century, and maybe the most beautiful writer of the English language of the century. Just I adore Virginia Woolf. I'd like to read all of these again. I'll show all these three at the same time too. These are these old copies of Greek plays. So Aeschylus, that's how you say it. And it's Agamemnon, the libation bearers, and Eumenides, and then Sophocles. It's completely white. Oh my god. And three great plays of Euripides: Medea, Hippolytus, and Helen. A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. Franny and Zoe. I love Franny. That whole the beginning story when she shows up and she's wearing her Burberry, having that really unfortunate conversation. Merchant of Venice by Shakespeare. I wrestle with Shakespeare. Sometimes I don't know. The Transposed Heads: A Legend of India by Thomas Mann. It's a short story. This terrific little, well-proportioned book, and it's magical and creative and fantastical. Reads like a story of legend. These two people have their heads switched by a goddess. A Dilemma by Hausman. It's wrapped, unopened. The Holy Sinner by Thomas Mann. I was so excited when this came out. This is a recent publication in the past few years, and it's a new translation of Letters by Marcel Proust by Lydia Davis. And it's just this Proust was this person who needed absolute silence, and he lived next to a noisy neighbor, and so he was writing these very polite but strongly worded letters for her to keep it down. She was having like construction going on in her house. Wild Swans at Cool by W.B. Yeats. Probably one of my favorite poets that doesn't need a qualification as an Irish poet or 20th century poet or anything. It's a great collection of essays by Oscar Wilde, The Soul of Man Under Socialism and Other Critical Prose. And I just adore this copy. That cover is great. And let me see. I just want to see if I can read the table of contents. Yeah, it has the decay of lying, the pen, the pencil, and poison, and the critic as the artist, the truth of masks. Endgame and Act Without Words by Samuel Beckett, two plays by Samuel Beckett. Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce. I do like this edition, just the way that it looks, um, but a completely unnecessary book to have. Catcher in the Rye. Oh my god, it's completely white. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. A Hero of Our Time by Mikhail Lermontov. Early 19th century um, uh, Russian novel, and I remember this being kind of like dirtier and seedier um, than I imagined. I thought it was going to have like a tone of like chivalry, and it does not. Okay. Will Self is Cock and Bull, and Will Self is really great with coming up with these absurd premises, modern absurdities that um, uh, make you think about Kafka's short stories. So it's a man that suddenly grows a vagina on the back of his knee, and a woman that grows a penis, and what happens from there. I still think it's too long. But Murder in the Cathedral by T.S. Eliot. This is one of his plays. It's a great little addition. The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami. I'm almost positive this is the first novel that I read by him, and I loved it. I thought it was a page turner, really enjoyable and creative and surprising, and I don't remember a thing about it. A DVD box set, Charlie Chaplin shorts and short movies. Um, one of my favorite actors. You can just when he's on the screen, he's magnetic. You just can't take your eyes off of him. I used to like putting it on. There's silence, so you just put it on and have it on mute, or have that funny old timey music playing. Walk by and see Charlie Chaplin do something funny. The Age of Alexander by Plutarch. This is another one of those editions where they chop up his biographies to make these. So it's useful if you're interested in just reading the biographies, but it really is annoying how there's so many different versions and translations, and it's so hard to just find the thing that Plutarch made. There's parallel biographies. Mr. Samler's Planet by Saul Bellow. And this was the first novel by Saul Bellow that I read, and I remember my old friend Bob recommending it to me. He thought I would like it. And this is a book that he read later in life, kind of a few years before he died. Humboldt's Gift. So this is I have not read this one. After I don't know if it was after Mr. Samler's Planet or not, but I bought a couple of these. I've read some, and there's some I still haven't. So I don't even have that. I probably will never read it. I don't know. I never think about reading Saul Bellow. Actually, he just recently came up. Anyway, The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot, and I read this a year and a half ago. It has a very memorable ending. Let's see. The Major Works of Percy Bysshe Shelley. And there's a lot. I've spent a lot of time reading Shelley and just trying to understand what he's talking about. Um, but it's an enjoyable challenge. Selected poetry by Thomas Hardy. You can't see it. Yeah, it's I haven't read the whole thing, but I've read a lot of really enjoyable poems by Hardy. Um, After Jude the Obscure and the outrage from the public and all of the book burnings, um, he turned to poetry and abandoned his novel writing. And Devils by Dostoevsky is the Cat's translation. I really I thought it was terrific. Um, I, I made a video about it, I talk about this at length. Um, yeah, just another incredible novel by Dostoevsky. And that's it. That is our bookshelf tour. I went through some of them fairly quickly because I knew this video is going to be going long. But if you see anything that interests you, let me know. I'll leave my email. If you have any thoughts about the books I showed or thoughts about what I had to say about them, please let me know. And yeah, leave a comment if you would like. And thank you for watching, and take care.